Being in the military can be one of the greatest things you ever did. Whether you liked it or hate it, it probably gave you some skills in your life that you could most likely use, if you aren't already, when you get out of the military. And guess what? Eventually you will get out of the military, whether you're staying in and only did 5 years like me, 4 like one of my good buddies, or you're doing the full 20, 30 years plus. Who the heck knows? But there's a lot we learn in the military that translates into the point afterwards. Well, on this episode, I wanted to kind of sit down and I just wanted to kind of go over how I went from the military to being and starting a couple businesses and failing in some, and what I've learned along that process from A to Z to where I am today and the endeavors I'm doing. I actually got in a conversation recently before this with another veteran who's looking to get into business, and honestly, it's pretty crazy to think that, things I've experienced and hearing him talk about wanting to, start a business or something on the side to get his life going. And I can actually look back and go, wow, I've actually accomplished a lot and done a lot. A lot of failures too. Definitely more than accomplishments, right? And so, obviously, I served in the Marine Corps. If you're new to the show, welcome. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And also, don't hit that follow if you're watching on the audio-only version. So I was in the Marine Corps from 2013, about a year after high school, I decided to join. It took me a little bit to get in. Joined the Marine Corps. I was an aviation electrician, so 6337. So I was an electrician on F-18s, and I got at my end of the station. I hopped on a lot of places, obviously typical ones for the Marines. Pensacola for training. Went to Northern California, Central California, I guess, to a point for my C school, and then I ended up in Miramar, which is how I spent the entire time. It's actually where I met my wife. But I was, took no combat deployments, took several deployments overseas, and that was just like Japan, Guam, Okinawa, South Korea, the whole Asian scene. And, for the most part, I learned a lot along those processes. What's funny is the military forced me to do a lot of things, and not everyone has this experience. I think we all know people in the military, like they either stay E3s or they barely hit E4, especially for the Marines, by the time they get out of their first contract. I was lucky in the fact that I picked up sergeant about a year before I got out, so I got to spend a full year being a sergeant and being in charge of Marines at that level. But I was a corporal for 2 years before that. And the military was funny. It kind of forced me. I was a very introverted kid when I first got in the military, which is funny because I joined at that point, you know what I mean? But every step of the way, I seem to get pushed farther and farther to not be that. It's just weird how life works out for you. As hard as life is, and as much as it sucks at times. I mean, holy shit. Sorry. Hopefully your kids aren't listening in the background. But, it sucks, right? I remember when I first got to, boot camp, I was a skater, right? DIs didn't even know I existed until the very end. Okay? And it's so funny. And then you get through schooling, didn't have to do anything. Got to my C school finally, right? And all of a sudden I show up, and within 2 days I'm told I am the head retard in charge of all these other boots in our training school. And I'm like, what? I'm just an introverted kid. I don't even know why I was picked. I wasn't even, somehow I was recommended. I don't even know. But they chose me. I was actually the girl that was leaving that position, that Lance, that was finally going to her unit, her squadron, somehow recommended me. Who knows, right? But I ended up doing that for the entire remainder of the time I was in C school. Doing inspections, lining them up, doing all that junk, which for me was super uncomfortable. And it taught me a good lesson right off the bat, because even in that petty small position, right? And for those of you who have been obviously in the fleet, you know that that's the most, it's not even really considered a position in charge. It is, but at the same time, it's it's not as heavyweight as the other ones. But it taught me really quick that no matter what decision you make, not everyone's happy. Impossible. Not going to happen. Someone's always upset. Take me to my squadron, where I'd work my ass off, did a lot of extra stuff on the side, working nights, trying to learn everything I can about the platform to be better at my job. And as soon as I pick up corporal after my first deployment, come back, pick up corporal, and they come in, they're like, hey, congratulations, you're now heading to tool room. And for those who works in the squadron, it's usually you send your jerk-offs to, you fap them out because they're not good enough for the shop. What's funny is they tried to bring me back in the shop after they, like literally the next day, my counterpart that was like the next one on the chopping block, they were like, oh, wait, my master sergeant was like, oh, wait, we want to switch them because we made a mistake. He should stay and he should go. Well, hey, I didn't make friends with everyone. I wasn't the cool kid on the block. They sent me to the tool room. I was super butthurt at the time, to be full honest, but it ended up being one of the greatest things that ever happened to me because one, I got to make great connections in the squadron. I just became the guy who got shit done in terms of tools and whatever. And I definitely could have gotten my CDI, my inspector certification. I decided to stop it. I got very unmotivated during that time. But it taught me really quick that, like, no matter what, it's another life lesson, looking back at it, really, which taught me it's like two things. One, like, you let yourself go. You easily could have fought for your spot back faster if you actually tried for it. Two, it taught me that you got to make the most of a situation. And that year inside of that position taught me a lot of things. Taught me how to manage a program. Taught me how to have to deal with people, deal with many shops. And at the point, it came to a point where I just became that much more known in the squadron because, well, I had to work with everyone, including the pilots and the officers, which turned out to be an amazing blessing in itself, right? Got special privileges in Korea. I got to drive a truck while we were there because, this is what we got. We got allotted one, right? It's awesome. And you take it from there towards the end of that, and then you get out. And, what's funny is during that time, in 2017, right, I got in 2018, a year before I got out, I bought my first rental property. Took the money from my second deployment that I had saved up. Me and my wife bought our first rental property. Actually, the first house I ever bought, I didn't even live in. It was just a rental property. And it was in Yuma, Arizona, about 3 hours east of San Diego. And, oh my God. I remember my wife definitely takes most of the credit for that property. I had the dream, and I come back after last deployment, and I really would love to get a rental property. And I remember my wife looking at me, and she's like, "Okay, why are we not doing this now?" And it seems so stupid, but she had a point. That's why I love her to death, because I'm like, no, that is a good point. Why am I not doing this? Why aren't we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm like, oh, I gotta learn. Well, if anything's taught me from the time being in the military, is like, yeah, you only can learn so much before you have to go out there and do it. So we did it. It was a struggle finding a realtor. We didn't know what we were doing. We got approved for a second home loan, is what we counted it as. Eventually became just an investment property, and we decided that we were going to do Airbnb. It was still a newer thing on the block, but it seemed successful. We got a townhome. I had a builder's warranty because it was their showing home for the complex. Found a hustling agent out there, which was hard enough in itself, knowing I'm in the industry now. Monty, love you, brother, always will. And got the property. And what's funny is we bought the property. I had to go back to Miramar, and we still had my 3-month-old son at the time. The next thing that happened, even after getting the property, so the property, to break down details, it was about $130,000. We were able to scrounge 19% down. So I had 1 year of PMI I had to deal with. And for those of you, that means mortgage insurance. It sucks. I tried so hard. Knowing what I know now, easily could have solved that problem. But it is what it is. We actually raised money from friends and family with interest, and some non-interest help from her mom, including the $12,000 I had down. We were able to put we were just about $20,000 down and pay for the closing costs. And through all that, closed pretty quick. Home didn't have many issues. Knowing what I know now, oh my God, I would have scrounged that inspection report a lot more. But it's okay. Property was still fine. And we get back to San Diego to realize, oh my God, we have to furnish this. Man, I found it real cool. We were able to furnish that place for I think like $600 out the door. Everything. We made it a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, kitchen utensils, couch, TVs, everything. Now we only put one TV in there. We didn't put any TVs in the bedroom, so it was just one TV. But we were on Craigslist, we were on Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, everywhere. I was going on pay. We were picking up everything we could. Paintings people didn't want. If it was free, we were taking it, refinishing it. Mind you, we piled all that stuff next to the house. I got sent on a debt to Yuma last minute. which is kind of what spurred this whole thing. Go to Yuma. And mind you, if you know when you get sent to Yuma, you have to go with your unit or your squadron. So, my wife, with the help of a couple family members, thankfully, God bless them, loaded up a U-Haul truck. She coordinated them driving out to Yuma. It was like 9 p.m. She picks me up on base. We go to the property after I was checking in for WTI all day. I'm setting up, I'm unloading the truck with the help of one of my buddies, bought him pizza, let him stay in the place for a couple days, unloaded everything. And even during that entire process of WTI, we were getting the house ready because it needed color, it needed a theme, it needed to be furnished, everything. We still had our 3-month-old, 4-month-old son at the time as well, going through all of that. And I couldn't drive while I was there, so my wife was driving me to and from work every day. Oh my God. I was installing garage door openers, refinishing cabinets, painting everything, like you name it, I was doing it. All by myself for the most part, and then obviously she was taking her portions of it as well with decorating and doing everything, taking care of our son, our oldest at the time. And oh my God, God bless her for having to go through all that. And that was while working 14 hours a day on night shift. And during the day, I was getting things ready in the place. Left, threw it up on Airbnb, took some cheap photos, because at that time, you did not need professional photos. Definitely don't do that now. And it started booking, surprisingly. I mean, it was crazy. It just started making money. And after a while, the average was about 500, maybe sometimes 1,000 a month net profit. It was actually a really good Airbnb for Yuma of all places, right? It's crazy. And we held that for about a year and a half, ended up turning it into a regular normal rental with a lease. I found out real quick that Airbnb doesn't show well in tax returns. So I wasn't really getting a full tax benefit owning the freaking house. So I turned to a regular rental, learned a little bit during that time, and then I could use that to depreciate and actually bring value. Ended up selling that in 2020 to buy a condo in San Diego, but it was insane. That deal, actually, when I sold it a couple years later after making that profit, now I turned to a regular rental, I only ended up making like $300 a month. The value, it was on a 15-year mortgage, so the value dropped a little bit. But, oh man, what's crazy is when I sold it at like it was about 4 years later, I made 50 grand net profit out the door when we sold it. And that was before the COVID craziness. So, it goes to show you real estate is just a great path. Now, for those of you looking to get into business when you get out, it's not, man, my first real business, because I didn't really consider it a business. It was a business, but I didn't feel like I was fully into it in terms of operations and where I am now. When I got out of the military, I went and contracted on 101 in Miramar, doing the same job, making about $32 an hour. And I think I finished at like $34 an hour, $35 an hour. And I only worked there for like 6 months. I hated it. I got out of the military to work somewhere for someone else to tell me what the fuck to do. Not my style. I just can't. When I work at something, I do work hard. But that job was just, I'm like, there's no benefits. I'm having to pay for medical. So even though I'm getting paid good, I'm like, is it really helping? Not really. It's just junk to me. A lot of guys do well with it. But, having a family and all those medical bills, like, it was just not the fit. It's not what I wanted. And, ultimately, oh, God, really just started looking into what am I going to do next? Well, I stumbled across being a mobile notary. I'm like, this seems like I can do. So during my lunch break, I was taking the notary course on my phone on the lunch table, eating my lunch. Some days I didn't even eat lunch. I just sat there and took this online course to qualify to become a notary. Took the test on like a Wednesday morning, took like the day off, took the test, oh my God, passed, got out of that job, got told, the first time someone's ever told me, like, oh, you'll be back. Like, I think this is stupid. Fuck you. Well, I learned really fucking quick how hard it is to generate money when you're starting a business, especially mobile notary business of all things. Fuck, I could have been way better doing a lot of other things, to be honest with you. But it was a good experience. I got to learn actually starting a business. Filing for a business, opening a bank account, separating the expenses. Like, I made a lot of mistakes that I didn't do. All those things I kind of did towards the end. Brought that up to about almost between $4,000 and $5,000 a month was my average. Sounds great, but I was spending so much time away from home. I'm like, there's not enough leverage. I need more leverage for my time because I want to take trips with my family. And being a mobile notary, if you're not working, you're not making money. Now, there are ways to get to a higher level to where you can get more leverage, but even then, it wasn't enough, right? It was only like at most like $200 a signing. You can be a little bit better. Most time, it's not great. So I'm not a fan. You need to do a huge volume for a little reward. I want to flip that. Low volume, big reward. So during all that process, went to one networking event before they shut down for COVID in the beginning of 2020. Met someone who was another Marine officer, got out. He's like, have you ever thought about getting a real estate license? I'm like, not really. Actually, I don't know. Never really thought about it. He's like, well, you really hounded me to get in touch, but you weren't rude about it. I'm like, I think you'd be a good fit to do it. And I was like, okay. Jumped in, feet first. And, I ended up spending a year as an ISA, making $15 an hour and $500 for every lead that closed, which was a couple in that year, not too many. My pay did go up a little bit to like $19, $20 an hour towards the end, but it just, oh man, it was a grind. 7 days a week, I was on call all the time with that broker. I was doing his showings for him for the most part. I only went on a couple listing appointments with him, but overall, I was like opening doors. If there was an inspection, I'd have to show up for it, all for minimum wage. I wasn't getting my miles paid for, putting miles on my car, being away from my family. I always had to have my phone on me. I always had to be reachable. I couldn't. I feel like I didn't have control. And finally, I had a final straw with that where, I had a situation where there's an open house lead, and I was told to be at the open house. I'm like, well, it's our listing, so now it's a team lead. I'm like, fuck, man. I got all this debt that's piling up. I'm away from my family because you have me on a salary or a 1099 income, which is not a salary. Let's be honest, a 1099 income because you told me to be at the open house. Now it's team lead, and I got enough conversations in the road now to where people are like, yeah, that's fucked, and that's not how I would run my team either. But it's one of those things where it was probably one of the best things that ever happened, though. I finally gained the courage, because honestly, I was being kind of a scaredy cat, and I didn't want to stop. My wife's like, "When are you gonna quit? When are you gonna quit?" And I was so nervous to quit, and then I left the team, went independent, and it was rough, right? But it wasn't any different from what I was doing. Went independent as an agent, trying to figure things out. Ended up closing a couple deals. Rates went up the following year. Took a little bit of a hit for sure. But all that time, looking back now, I was building skills. And if you're someone who's in a position where you are looking to start a business after getting out of the military, my biggest thing is you don't necessarily have to jump feet first. A lot of veterans feel like, nowadays, they feel like they're going to be like, oh, I'm just going to get disability and I'll be okay. Stop banking on that. Look, every veteran should just put in the paperwork. Not saying you shouldn't do that. It's part of the process of getting out, right? The VA is going to rate you. They're going to evaluate you. They're going to decide. But I really think, especially if you have family and kids, I don't recommend it. I was living off of with all my other endeavors and stuff, like $3,700 a month for like years. I racked up debt, paid it down, racked up another 40 grand in debt, and I'm just paying that off now. It's just this year in 2023 where I actually started to gain progress. That's 3 years of actually doing business. Actually, 5 years. It's gross. And I mismanaged a lot of things. And some of the things I do differently are this. I would have sought someone who I respected more in the industry faster. Like someone who's doing things the way I wanted to do them. I would have networked more, and COVID did not help. Clearly, I would have networked more. I would have stayed in touch with people better, and I would have become more of me sooner. I would get a client phone call. I wouldn't even have my kids around. Now, I don't give a crap. I'm sorry. I have kids. I have 3 boys, and I'm not going to push them away for some phone call. Now, sir, certain meetings might need some delicacy, or I'm not going to take them to every appointment, but I'm not going to shy away from that fact. I have kids. I am around my kids. If I'm not doing clients, I'm with my family. And I haven't been great with that. My time management has been trash. And I need to get better with it. But I'm telling you, if you're looking to make that jump, do it smartly. Make sure you know what you're getting into. Find someone or a group that can be there with you along the process, just like in the military. You don't have to go it alone. I think it's the biggest fallacy. Okay, it's not like you have to hire employees depending on what you're doing, but I'm saying like you make sure you have a community you can lean on who knows what you're going through, who can understand it and jump into it. Now, if you're one of the agents that I know watches this show, hey, you can always reach out to me, join our community. Obviously, Tired Agents is a huge thing we're doing. It's a community of agents who want to become more leveraged but still make good money. And to me, if you're not making six figures, like that's all the goal we strive for. In today's day and age, it's not that crazy to get there. It's not easy, but doing the right things, you're going to get there. But if you're a veteran who's getting out of the military, honestly, I encourage you to start looking into it before you get out. Like if I knew what I knew now, I would have gotten licensed while I was in the military, and at the very least, I would have been a referral machine. My business partner closed 24 deals last year as active duty Navy, right? That's well over six figure, like the cresting six figures of income in the 100,000s. But, you know, it didn't come with pain, but he gets it done. And I wish I knew it at that time. But you can't look back in the future and hate it because everything happens for a reason. And just like the veteran I talked to today, he's looking at wanting to jump into doing something. He's like, you know, I'm 31. I got crazy alcoholic getting out. I did all these things, and I feel like it meant to do more, but I feel like it's too late. I'm telling you right now, it's never too late. I don't care when you're getting out of the military, how long ago you got out of the military. It's never too late. Understand that you're always in a position to get better, do better, and be better. Honestly, you might just be missing that one small piece. So the first thing you should do is really got to figure out, how do you want your life to be lived? Because if you're someone like me, I didn't know what business I wanted to start. And the cool thing about being one of these licenses is, well, you're not really jumping full in as like a regular business would be. And you can hate it or like it, but you know, I chose an industry that's pretty renowned. And right now I'm getting back into investing. And I'm excited. I feel like I get to actually put all the skills that I struggled to gain over the last 3 years to practice. Because I left investing to focus on my sales business. But now heading back to investing as part of my whole thing we're doing in Florida, I realized, I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, all of that happened for a reason. Because now, even in some of the Zoom calls in this investor community I'm a part of that I paid good money for, like, they have problems, and I'm like, oh yeah, you would just do this, this, and this. And I forget, so I've been spending thousands of hours knowing this stuff and practicing and practicing. So understand, when you start your business, you're not necessarily going to start off on the right foot. You're going to have to figure things out, struggle, figure things out, fail, try again. But there's always a way to do something. It doesn't matter what you're trying to do, like you can make good money and a good living doing it. In fact, if there's any group of people in this country that deserve to start businesses, or at the very least have flexibility with their time, it's veterans. You had the skills to do it. As much as you maybe hated your experience in the military, I promise you learned something in skills. Even the fact that military members will just keep pounding our head against the wall until it breaks, that might seem stupid, but when it comes to business, it's the repetitive, boring things that get me to the next level. The crazy ideas I have don't always get me to the next level. It's the monotonous plans and systems that get me to the next level and continue to grow my business. And now, as I crest six figures this year, I finally broke that mark. And I have bigger goals than that and bigger strides, but I'm now in a place where I can give back, which is why I'm starting Tired Agents. So I am starting that community because I learned so much, and I want to have flexibility over my time to where I'm not always physically having to be somewhere, always do something, but my business is still growing and I'm still profiting. And it's possible. I'm doing it. And now I get to teach other people how to do that process as well. So no matter what business you're trying to start, you can always reach out. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere you get your audio podcast, in the description below, there's always a link to get me on the phone. No matter what you're trying to do, whether it's personal, you're a veteran going through something, you need help in business, you're trying to invest, I don't care what it is. Links below, schedule a 15-minute phone call. We'll talk on the phone for 15 minutes. I'll try and give you any piece of advice I can help you with. Or hey, maybe it involves having to to have you be like, hey, you know what? I don't have an answer, but you can talk to this person. You can always reach down in there to get that information, and I'm always happy to talk with you to work through whatever you're going through, try and get you to that next step. And if you are looking to PCS or do anything crazy, obviously Agents of the Armed Forces are our real estate team across the country. We help veterans PCS, but also more importantly, we help them build wealth. And I'm not saying it to be we're not saying it to be a big real estate guru, but what we do is we help veterans make smart financial decisions or get out of debt to be in a position to where they can actually start taking control of their lives. But you hear the conviction in my voice as well to finish this off. It took me years of self-reflection and development and learning who I am in this life, this life I'm living, who I am and who I want to help and how I want to be things. To where now, even people from last year look at me now, and I got told like a couple months ago on the camera, like your videos are way more confident because I've done the work on myself to know where I stand, what I stand for, and no one's going to change that. And if you're not in that position, that's okay. Realize it takes time, it takes work, it takes energy, but I promise you, if you move in the right direction and align yourself with the right people, you will make progress and you will get to that next place if you are starting to, trying to start a business when you get out of the military. So I hope you got value in this video. I hope it maybe sparked your brain somehow. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, leave a comment for any questions you have, like the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on audio, look, I need more ratings and reviews. Go ahead, leave a rating and review. I love to read all of them. If there's anything I need to improve on the show, let me know. I know I need to do more interviews. I promise. I'm in the process of moving across the country right now. More interviews are coming, I promise you. But I'm moving all over the place. It's way too hard to do right now. But I hope you get value in this video or this podcast if you're listening on the audio version. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.